Hello everybody and welcome back to Sweet and Sour Soccer, and of course it is our first official video back being called Sweet and Sour Soccer, and I thought I had to bring the type of video that we would do on this channel, and that's why we're going to be speaking about free agents today. Of course the best things in life are free, so I wanted to have a look at potential players that could be heading to the Premier League or the EFL Championship this summer. Of course July, we're into July now, which means contracts have run out. There's a whole list of players which have still got to decide the future, and I've tried to pick out some players which have been linked with either the Championship or the Premier League, or perhaps players which we should be having a look at that haven't already pretty much got their future decided. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the video, and I'm going to start off with this man on screen, Jesse Lingard, because I think this is a really interesting discussion to have with Jesse Lingard. Obviously, his former club, Nottingham Forest, he didn't do too well there, but sustained a lot of injuries and came on quite a high contract and inevitably was let go by the end of the season. Now, of course, throughout his time at Nottingham Forest, he only actually managed 17 appearances within the Premier League, of which he achieved 0 goals and 0 assists. And his average rating for the season across the Premier League, according to SofaScore, was 6.56. Now, I think Jesse Lingard, based off that, is entering a really interesting time in his career. Now, of course, you know, you look back to last season, you thought the move to Nottingham Forest was quite a good one for him. You thought he'd get regular game time and really have a chance to reinvent himself. And maybe the reason that only a short contract was decided upon was probably because Lingard thought, wow, if I have a really good season, he could maybe be looking at clubs back in European football. I think things have really taken a turn though, and it really was not a good season at Nottingham Forest. So what has to be said, and who has he been linked with? Well, he's been linked with Saudi Arabia slightly, and he's also been linked with a move to the USA so far. But I think some of those links are a bit premature. I think it's purely just because at the moment he finds himself training out there. And of course, former Man United legends such as David Beckham and Wayne Rooney both have some capacity within a USA MLS club. Jesse Lingard actually spoke himself not too long ago about his contract situation, saying that he was considering all options. He says he's never ruled out any team or club out. So for me, it's just picking the right team, and it's got to be right for me. I just want to play football at the end of the day, and that's all I want to do. Now, that was something which he was asked upon when he was asked about links with possible move to Saudi Arabia. And he, like another player that I'm going to be speaking about further on in this video, has potentially been linked with Saudi Arabia just because of the huge social media following that he has, and obviously the positive representation that he could perhaps put out on that social media following, and you know, all the people that inevitably are following him on the social media platforms. For me, Jesse Lingard, it's going to be a real interesting one, because I don't know whether another Premier League club will gamble on him, especially after a really bad season. Could he have to drop back down into the Championship, reinvent himself? We've seen players such as Connor Cody and Harry Winks already prepared to do that. The problem is he would have to take a massive salary cut to do that. So I don't know at this point where he's going to end up. And I'm really interested to think where you guys may think he will end up. But let's jump on to our next one. We're going across to the French league, because Moussa Dembele has been linked with a host of Premier League clubs, which we'll actually go into. 26 years old now, obviously a striker. He made 23 league appearances last year and only achieved 3 goals with an average rating of 6.60. His former club, Lyon, he really did have a mixed journey there. And although these stats do look, well, let's face it, not very good at all, there is a reason for that. If we bring up the next page, on the back of the 21-goal campaign in 21-22, the former France under-21 star followed that with 3 strikes for Lyon last season, owing to the form of Alexander Lacazette. So essentially what we're saying is basically he got dropped because of how Alexander Lacazette performed last season. And inevitably, He had a really good season 2 seasons ago, not so much in his last season, but I still think there's a striker there that could offer huge potential, potentially for teams that really need addition in their attacking line. Of course, the two clubs he have been linked with so far are Everton and Wolves, probably the two clubs that managed to stay in the Premier League that had the least goal power in them. So it's no surprise that these are the two clubs he's been linked to so far. But it wouldn't surprise me if there's a couple of others that come into the frame. At the moment, there is no strong links of where Moussa Dembele is going to move on. But as we know, I expect things to move on really quickly within the next week for a number of these people that I'm speaking about on screen, because a lot of clubs are arriving back in pre-season training. And if they're going to make a free signing, they're going to want that player in as soon as possible. Let's move on to another player, and one that we will know well in the Premier League, Maitland-Niles. Now, of course, his former club Arsenal, he has been let go from, but he spent the last season out on loan with Saints. It's been a couple of disappointing years for Maitland-Niles, and a player who wanted to basically play further on up the pitch under Arsenal, and inevitably because of that has found himself being loaned out, has found himself in a position where nobody really can pick out where his best position is. And I think he's really got an interesting point in his career at the age of 25, where the next club he chooses really does have to be the right one. He had a very disappointing season with Saints, only achieving a 6.67 rating on average. But of course, Saints in general, let's face it, bottom of the league, didn't do too well themselves. It's interesting with Maitland-Niles because despite not really having a positive couple of seasons, there's a whole host of Premier League, other clubs linked with him as well, and even the Championship as well. There's a couple of articles I was reading, the likes of Everton, West Ham, Sheffield United and Crystal Palace from the Premier League are interested. Various Championship clubs have also been rumoured to be in talks with his representatives, as well as other European leagues, such as Italy, seem to fancy Maitland-Niles. He's got a big choice, doesn't he, at the end of the day? He wanted to obviously play further on up the pitch. People haven't been convinced about that. He's been playing in a number of positions, right wing, right back, centre mid, centre defensive mid. And I don't think any manager over the past few years has really been able to get the best out of him or knows where they really want to play him. I think it's going to be important for him and his agent to sit down, consider all options. And even if it means dropping down to the Championship, I really do think it's important that he picks somewhere where he's going to be a regular starter under the right manager, someone that's going to believe in him and have a clear vision for him as well. And I think that's where you could see a real career revival. So let's move on to the next potential incoming into the Premier League or Championship, Nathan Redmond. Now, Nathan Redmond obviously did a season out on loan last year to club Besiktas. And he actually had a really, really positive season out there. 29 years of age now. He played 25 times, achieving 5 goals and 5 assists. And his average rating within the league was 7.04. So a really, really positive season overall. And I don't think it's any surprise that he's being linked with a number of Premier League clubs, especially being on a free agent. I think the interesting thing with Nathan Redmond is just the fact that obviously I don't think some club fan bases would be too happy if he did come in. But I really do think he's one of those players that's actually really underappreciated. And it wasn't too many years ago that I believe that Pep Guardiola really himself really used to big this guy up. So what do we know and where may he be heading? Well, Nathan Redmond, he has just been linked with the Premier League in general. Basically, read that if you want, guys. But basically what it says is Besiktas basically tried to get him to sign a new contract. That didn't actually happen. And he has now moved on to being a free agent. Burnley and Wolves are said to be interested so far in this statement, but other clubs have since come in, such as Sheffield United, also seeming to be keeping an eye on him. So this is one which I think is going to be solved pretty soon, and it'll be interesting to see where he goes. I also wouldn't rule out a move to the Championship for Nathan Redmond. I think he's done something really brave in going out and playing in a league in Turkey, which is obviously, we've seen some people such as Dele Alli also go out to there, hasn't he, and not done so well. So he took a huge risk, I think, last year. I think it's worked out well for him. He did well. He's well loved, well respected. And I think it's probably time in his head at near 30 to come back to the Premier League or Championship. Hi all, just a quick one from me before we get back to the video. If you are enjoying the video, as always, please do me a massive favour right now, hit that like button. And if you are new to the channel, please do hit that subscribe button as well. And let's get back to talking about free agents. Let's talk about another player now who we will know too well, and that is Tom Davies. His former club, Everton, of course, he was let go. And because the main reason due to that was because he turned down a new contract. Now, his main reason for doing that is mainly just because of what you can see on screen. In fact, he only made 19 league appearances last season, with the majority of them coming off the bench, achieving no goals or assists either. And his main reason for turning down a new contract is he wants to just go out and get some regular game time. He wants to basically be playing. He wants to be starting. And at the age of 25, I do think that's a really good decision. And as you can see, the average rating across the season of 6.52 was quite disappointing. So what do we know at the moment about where he may be ending up? Well, the only quote that I could really find at the moment, and it wasn't really anything substantial, coming from the Daily Mail, was Tom Davies leaves Everton after turning down a new contract at Goodison Park, with Serie A side Monza interested in the midfielder. We're led to believe that that is a 3-year deal that they've offered, and it's one that him and his camp are considering. We could also see him potentially go to Sheffield United, and it's believed a host of Championship clubs are monitoring the situation as well. I really like to see him in similar vein to what Harry Winks has done. Drop down a league, reinvent yourself. And if you are a Premier League player, you're going to rise. The cream always rises. Is that the saying? It's probably not. I think I've fumbled that massively. But the cream always rises to the top. That's the one I'm thinking of. But my main point is I think it would do him good. And it is potentially one that we could see maybe a lower Premier League side, or a newly promoted Premier League side, I should say, or a Championship team near the top really make contact with him. Let's move on to another player, and this is one which you guys may not be too familiar with, but one I thought was really important to speak about. Elias Skahiri, I think it's pronounced like that anyway. His former club, Cologne, playing in the German league. The centre defensive midfielder was one that I really wanted to speak massively about, and although he's not yet caught the interest of Premier League clubs, I really do think he should. The defensive midfielder played a total of 32 games last season, despite being a defensive midfielder, achieved 7 goals and 1 assist in the league. And probably the most impressive rating that you're going to see on this whole video, a 7.17 rating for the overall season. So what could this player bring, and why do I feel this is one that Premier League clubs should be looking at? Well, he's been mainly linked with a move to the Bundesliga, and obviously another Bundesliga team at the moment. But I wanted to pull up this quote that came from the Bundesliga site, because I think it really did just kind of show exactly what I wanted to speak about with him. Run, Skiri, run. In the 2021 season, so Skiri left everybody in his wake in the Bundesliga, covering 246.2 miles, a full 5 miles more than his nearest challenger to that crown. I thought that was really interesting, because this is what you're going to get with him. You're going to get a player that's very fit, very active, going to cover every blade of grass and give it all for the team. As well as that, as you've seen, pretty impressive stats from a defensive midfielder. And I think for that reason, Premier League clubs, if they haven't done so already, should be really considering trying to pull him to the allure of the Premier League. Guys, let's talk about Matt Doherty next. A player that's had an interesting couple of years, few years after leaving Wolves, where he did really well. He obviously had a horrid time at Tottenham, and a weird loan move came out in January, where he moved to Atletico Madrid. In fact, it actually ended up a free transfer, didn't it? I should say. He moved on a free transfer, age 29, can play as a right wing back, can play as a right back, but only made 2 appearances and 1 appearance in the league, achieving a 6.5 rating across those 2 appearances whilst at Atletico Madrid. But I feel this is going to be a really interesting one to monitor. I was trying to find out where he potentially could be going next, and in all honesty, he hasn't really been linked with anywhere. But at 29 years old, We know that he's got experience in England. We know that he can play well in the back five, which we're seeing a lot of Premier League teams doing over the years, but more Championship teams doing as well. I really think this is one that both leagues will probably have a little eye on, majority being the Championship, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see him back in England in some capacity one way or another. Let's speak about another player that we know too well, Alex Oxlade Chamberlain, of course, the former Liverpool player who is 29 years of age now, only made 9 league appearances last season in what has been a career kind of really stifled by injuries. I think this is going to be a really interesting one. And this was the player that I was comparing similar to Lingard in the video when regards to Saudi Arabia, because Oxlade Chamberlain has potentially been touted for a move to Saudi Arabia purely just because of his social media following, the England caps that he's made, and that would be a huge pull. But really, we don't really know where he's going to end up next. It could be a number of places. I don't know what is best for Oxlade Chamberlain. I think his career and this move is really important. He could kind of follow what we've seen with likes of fellow Liverpool player Daniel Sturridge did and Jack Wilshere, because, you know, we've seen him have a lot of injuries. It wouldn't surprise me if 2-3 years from now, we unfortunately see him declare an early retirement, but he in his own head knows what he's got left in him. And we've got to maybe wonder, is he going to give it another go? Is he going to maybe even drop down a league or accept a team perhaps very much lower down in the Premier League, obviously compared to Liverpool, to try and get his career back on track and really try and reinvent himself? Or at 29, is he maybe just thinking, let me just do a couple of years in Saudi Arabia, I'll make my money, and that will be me done? I really don't know which way it's going to go with Oxlade Chamberlain, in all honesty. I don't know. Do let me know in the comments. I'm not too sure. Another player that I wanted to pull up from the Premier League, Yerry Mina. His former club, obviously Everton, 28 years of age, centre-back, and made only 8 appearances last season. If he does seem to be continuing in the Premier League, the only club that we've seen linked so far is Fulham. He's also got a lot of interest from a lot of other different leagues. Lens, Granada, Besiktas, also interested in keeping the signing of Yerry Mina. We are yet to know whether he will sign for Fulham, but at the moment we've seen no other Premier League club linked. So let's talk about someone else. Jonathan Bamba, former club Lille, a player that I think would be a very good signing for a number of Premier League teams. He potentially plays on the left or right wing. He played 34 times last season and achieved 6 goals and 7 assists and got an average rating of 6.84. Now, him, like the rest of the team, did have a bit more of a disappointing season compared to the one prior, when obviously Lille did the unthinkable and actually won the French league. Now, and that's why I thought I'd bring up this quote. Jonathan Bamba was hardly alone in experiencing a drop-off after Lille's sensational title snatch in 2021. However, the 26-year-old has rediscovered his best form under Les Dugues this term, averaging a goal and assist every other game. Atalanta and Fiorentina, 2 Italian clubs that have made a habit of snapping up hidden gems in the market, are interested in Bamba. Now, that's the only quote I find mentioning certain teams, but a lot of news articles are speculating that they expect to see some Premier League teams show some interest. In fact, West Ham did show some interest in Jonathan Bamba after his really good season with Lille, but the move didn't materialise. So it really wouldn't surprise me if he is considered and offered contracts at least by teams within the Premier League. So let's move on to a player who has obviously spent some time out of the Premier League, but maybe looking at getting back into the English game. Former club Nice, Ross Barkley, of course, who has been playing in the French league over the past couple of years, is a free agent and looking to find another club. He had a pretty impressive season, though, last year, making a total of 27 appearances in the league, getting 4 goals, 2 assists, but having a really good SofaScore rating of 6.9 across the season. Now, it really does remain to be seen what could potentially happen with Ross Barkley. The links that we're seeing so far, We've seen links to the Championship. We've seen links to Middlesbrough. We've also seen links to Everton. But I do have to say both of those links with Middlesbrough and Everton, as much as there's articles linking to Ross Barkley to them, there's also articles rubbishing those articles. So I guess we're in a position where we really don't know at the moment. I thought there was an interesting interview that was done with his former manager, Roberto Martinez, who talked about him via TalkSport, where he said, as a British player, he's not a player that fits in a system. And I think that's been a big problem for him. I think if Barkley would have been born in Spain or in a different culture, they would appreciate more his incredible physicality for a technical player. I really want to see what will happen with Ross Barkley now. You know, you could imagine him maybe dropping down to the Championship. I think maybe he has been linked with Middlesbrough purely because Michael Carrick is the manager and the relationship there. And obviously we know Everton at the moment may have some FFP difficulties. And of course, every year he seems to be linked with a return back to Everton. So I'd be very surprised if these are substantial rumours at the moment. But it wouldn't surprise me if we see him back in England in one shape or form. Another player which I'm really interested to see what you guys think about his potential return to the Premier League or Championship. And I think this is our last one, I think. Adama Traore, I wanted to quickly talk about him. Former club Wolves, 27 years of age now. For 34 appearances last year, quite a lot of those from the bench. He started to get a bit of a reputation of a super sub, achieved 2 goals, 2 assists, and an average rating of 6.74. We don't actually know where Adama's going to end up. He's been linked with Wolves to stay on with Wolves, even though, you know, he's technically a free agent now. He's had offers from Italy, offers from Spain, and an interesting quote that came back from Sky Sports. It's all the way back in February. But Adama Traore's Wolves contract has just 6 months left. Obviously, that's now done, with Spain International saying it depends on the club. Now, that's the one thing I wanted to bring up with that statement, is because we are led to believe that Wolves have offered Adama a contract, but maybe not as lucrative of the £100,000 a week contract he was offered just 2 years ago, which he inevitably turned down. The problem is for Adama, his stock has really dropped since his heyday, where he's linked with the likes of even Man City, Liverpool and Spurs. And he now finds himself in a weird situation where he's very much regarded as a super sub, but maybe a super sub that not even the top clubs would want to utilise. He's had good offers from the likes of AC Milan and Napoli, so it wouldn't surprise me if we do see Adama leave the Premier League. But at the same time, it also wouldn't surprise me if there's a couple of Premier League clubs thinking, let's take a risk on this guy, because there is something about Adama Traore when he is at his best. He's just the most exciting, fascinating player to watch that just gets all fans off their seats. So one of those that, do I think he'll be in the Premier League next season? Probably not. But at the same time, who knows? Guys, that is the video on free agents. I hope it is a video that you have enjoyed, because, look, in all honesty, it took me a long time to put this one together. And I hope you're looking forward to more of these type of videos coming. I thought I'd pull something together for you, as there doesn't seem any main concrete transfer stories coming out at the moment. But guys, if you are watching the video and you're a Premier League fan, Championship fan, there's going to be plenty for you on this channel. So please do me a favour, as I asked earlier in the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Goodbye.